Hi everybody, it's Miss Hope from Monroeville Public Library. Welcome to the next edition of Toddler University. This is a series of programs where we're working together and finding a way to help the children build the early literacy and the early learning skills that will help them succeed forever. Today, if you can see my wonderful collection, we're talking about blocks. Almost every child enjoys blocks. Blocks are a very fundamental, basic, easy, very old and traditional toy that children use. But the impacts that they can have on your child's growth and learning are enormous, which is probably why they have stayed true throughout time and have always been a favorite. There's many different ways that playing with blocks can help your children and many skills they can develop while they're playing with blocks. First is their imagination. In order to imagine, in order to make a building or make some kind of creation, you need to think of it first, and then you use your imagination to make it come real. Where am I going to put the blocks? How big am I going to make it? Is it going to have doors? All those things builds the imagination, and imagination might not sound important, but when the teacher asks your child to look at something and come up with an idea, they're going to have to use their imagination to try to think of the possibilities of something. One of my favorite things is the problem solving that comes along with blocks. We've all seen kids get frustrated and get upset when their towers fall, but this is the perfect opportunity. It's a natural, in the course of everyday life, way that they can learn to solve problems. Okay, your tower fell. What are you going to do different? Why do you think it fell? All those kind of things will help them learn to solve problems. We hear a lot about grit and determination. There's countless parenting books written on it about how important it is to stick with something and work through adversity. And this is where it starts. It sounds ridiculous that your 2-year-old is going to be working on something that's going to be so important when they're a teenager and a young adult, but this is where it starts. This is where they learn to not just give up and walk away. You know what? That's great. It fell down. It happened. Now what are we going to do? And that's always the important part. So it all starts here. They learn spatial sense and motor abilities. Spatial sense is you learning where things are in relation to each other. What's too big to fit on top of something else? If you have a space that's this small, this block isn't going to fit into it. Your child's going to learn those by messing up with blocks, but that's okay because it's all for the greater good of learning. Motor skills are very important. Last time we talked a lot about gross motor skills, using the big muscles, the legs, the arms, the back, the torso. Now we're talking more about fine motor activities. Fine motor is the smaller muscles in the hands, the muscles in the fingers. When you're moving the blocks, obviously as kids get older, their blocks get smaller because their fine motor skills get better. A 2-year-old's not going to do really well with tiny Legos, besides the threat of choking on them, but they're not going to do really well because they're not going to be able to hold them as well and manipulate them with their hands. That's why we have these big blocks for the toddlers, because those are big enough that they can manipulate and move them and not get frustrated when they do that. The fine motor skills are so important because this is where they start to build the muscles that will hold a pencil, that will hold their scissors, that will type on a computer. This is where that starts as well. Believe it or not, science is a big thing right now, and believe it or not, playing with blocks is your child being scientific. The whole premise of the scientific method is a scientist comes up with a hypothesis, they test the hypothesis, and they come up with a conclusion. Well, here, your child is going to imagine something that they're going to build or a tower they're going to make. They're going to try it. If it works, great. They know they can do that, and they will expand on a building or a creation and go from there. If it doesn't work, they'll rethink the situation, switch what didn't work, and try something else. So your child is actually participating in the scientific process almost every time they're building with blocks. Self-esteem. This is so important for small children, for all children, for all people. But self-esteem, think of how proud your child is when they've built a building and they come and they show it to you. They're just bursting with how proud they are. And you know what? They did that themselves. They had the idea in their head, they figured out how to make it work, and they did it. That is a huge accomplishment. It's the toddler version of writing a thesis paper. So it's pretty good. So self-esteem, tell them how great they did, how proud you are. You know, you worked really hard on that. That was great. We're going to talk a little bit more about not focusing so much on the final product, but what they did to get there. But we'll get to that in a minute. And one of the final skills that blocks are oh so good for is the social and emotional skills. They learn to communicate. If they're building with you or with a friend or with a sibling, they learn to talk with them, they learn to share, they learn to take turns. But blocks are also really cool because so many kids like and enjoy blocks. It is a really wonderful way to build friendships. It's a way of connecting. Little kids, they're just learning how to make friends, they're just learning how to be social. And if you're sitting with blocks, it's really easy. Another kid can come over, your child can go over to another kid, and they can sit down because they both like the blocks. And so it's a really good way of building bridges with kids. So I really like blocks. We all know that kids start really simple when they're little. When really small, tiny babies and toddlers are just going to be figuring out that one block goes on top of the other. That's basically all we're going to be working on. Some of them are going to fall off. They're not going to put them on right. It's going to fall off. But as they keep practicing and as they keep going, it'll get more and more intricate until they're building the great big Lego sets with 1,000 pieces that you'll step on forever and it'll be horrible. But as parents, we can do a lot to make the time that our children spend playing with blocks more productive and help them learn the skills that will go along with blocks as they play. When you're playing blocks with your child, take an evaluation. See, is your child having and following their own ideas? Are they choosing and exploring their own way of doing things? I know that we all want to help, and it's really hard to watch when our kid's trying to build a tower and it falls. And then they build it and it falls. And we know it's going to fall. We can see it. We're just waiting, and we know. And then the crying and the tears. But that's important. It's really important. It's hard. I know you're really upset. You were doing so well and working so hard. I get disappointed when that happens too. What can we do different? Where do you think it's starting to fall? And make a suggestion. What about if you put something under there? What if you put a block over on the side? What if you made the bottom a little bit bigger? But then let them do it. What if you made it, if that didn't work, what if we made it a little bit bigger? Here, let's see. Show me how big you're going to make the bottom. Sit down. Let them lead the play because it's so much more important. And this goes along with one of the next things. Are the children involved? Are they concentrating on what they want to achieve? If a parent's there just giving them directions, they're going to be so much less interested, and then they're not going to continue on with the blocks and what they could be doing with them. So think about it. You get your kid a Lego set, you're starting to put it together, and the more intricate you're getting into it and you're putting more and more of it together, sooner or later your kid's just sitting there watching you do it, maybe handing you a piece here and there. It's not fun. So work with your child. Let your child lead you, make suggestions. And that'll help them really build what they're doing. So when they're playing by themselves, they know what to do. They know what to question. And are the children willing to take risks in their block play? Do they keep trying when things don't work out? We were just saying that this is one of the most important things. Concentrating not on the end product, but that was really great when it fell down before you put that up. I really think that made a difference. It fell again. What other changes do you think we can make? But making the suggestions and encouraging them in trying, in taking a risk, instead of just, wow, that's a beautiful building. I love that building. Yes, you can say that, and that's great because usually they are really cool buildings that kids come up with, but also make it about what they did well to get them to that final product, because that's where all the work happens. That's where all those skills are being built up. That's the important part. And again, one of the most important things is having fun. If you're having fun and they're having fun, they won't even realize they're learning, and they will go so much further and learn so much more than they would have otherwise. So you guys are all doing a great job. So keep going, keep safe, and we'll see you next time for Toddler University. Bye-bye.